And now for our feature presentation.
You're listening to the JB and Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online.
He's going to go into the end zone.
Puts it up. Yes! There goes Davis.
Oh, my God.
Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game.
American Pharoah is finally the one. American Pharoah has won the Triple Crown.
And Bonds hits one high. It's a dig. It is out of here. High fly ball into right field. She is gone.
Unbelievable. A home run for Gibson. And the Tigers have won the game 5-4. I don't believe what I just saw.
Here are your hosts, Jamie Bradford and Darren Goldwater.
All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. Find us on the all-new JB and Goldwater app and at jbandgoldwatershow.com. Darren Goldwater is to the right of your screen. I am Jamie. If you're listening, you can't see us, but we're both here, just pictures on the right and left, and we're here until 2 o'clock this afternoon across all social media platforms at JB and Goldwater. And, of course, individually, we invite you to follow us there, too. At Darren Goldwater is he. I am at Sports Radio JB. You can watch and listen on the all-new app, as I just mentioned. Just get into the Apple Store or the Google Store on your phone. Type in JB and Goldwater. It's a free app. You can also purchase a season ticket while you're in there. Guys, it's only $5. It's only $5 a month. It's a steal of a deal. And we've got the all-new miniseries Gamecock Talk in there, set next week to debut another a little mini-series called Whiskey Talk, Paddock and Whiskey Talk, and that is a partnership that we have with our bourbon and whiskey partners over on James Island, Paddock and Whiskey. Also tomorrow we're going to be announcing a really neat event coming up later on this month, and we will invite all of you to join us and come meet Darren and his fine hair, and I'll be there too. So that's all ahead, but it's all right there on the JB and Goldwater app, so make sure you download it and tell your friends about it, and make sure you purchase yourselves a season ticket as well. Our text line is open. And our phone lines are open temporarily, 843-321-8893, phone and text. But that line will be clogged up here in a few minutes because David Cloninger is set to join us from Columbia, South Carolina. A lot to get to with him today. We'll take a big dance right around the campus. We've got football, we got men's basketball, women's basketball, and baseball to get to today with DC, who, by the way, has a beautifully written article out about Seventh Woods, the transfer from North Carolina, but former sensation at Hammond before he went to play for his childhood dream school, the Tar Heels. But last year sat out with transferring from North Carolina to South Carolina, and this year he is expected to play a very, very vital role in the Carolina men's basketball program. So we're going to talk to him about that and much more. We've got Corey McCartney today. Excited to get Corey because you do have Clemson and Notre Dame this weekend. I know you talked to him last week when I was up in Delaware about the Heisman race.
Yep.
I'd like to get in on that conversation today, so we'll do that. We'll talk about some offseason baseball stuff with him too, some interesting points to be made maybe when it comes to the Braves and some others. I talked to him about some of these awards, and so that's ahead with Corey at 12:30. And then at 1:30, 1 week from today, we'll be watching the Masters, folks, and we've got our Masters preview today with the one and only Scott Glaze, the golf pro out there at Stono Ferry. So this is a really good program. We've got some other football to get to. We got some hoop stuff to get to, Darren. So it's another full show around here. But I want to say this, and Darren and I, we appreciate everything that everybody has done since we launched this program in the middle of this whole debacle back in April. Everybody thought we were crazy. We did a couple of interviews with newspapers around here. They thought we were nuts. But it's worked out, and our program is, we continuously tell you it's the fastest growing show in the state, and one of the fastest growing shows in the Southeast for that matter. Yesterday, and this is just Twitter alone, you can watch and listen to us in a multitude of ways. YouTube, obviously if you go to the app, it'll allow you to listen and watch and things like that, but you can go straight to YouTube or Twitter or Facebook or Periscope. You can listen on the Podbean app. So there's a bunch of different ways. We have to add up a bunch of different numbers when we try to figure things out. But when we got off the air yesterday, we saw on just Twitter alone, over 7,000 of you had watched yesterday's program. And Darren and I have been in media for a while, so you call games in front of thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people.
Sometimes 10.
Yeah, sometimes 10. I used to work for ESPN Radio, so we're used to a bunch of people listening to us and being involved in things. But I don't know that we expected it to get up to 7,000 a day like we had yesterday. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it was, we got off the air and we saw the number, and I kept telling Jamie, up. More.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I know, it's fun. So I'm happy that you guys are enjoying what we're doing, because we're not going anywhere. We're going to keep doing it, and it's going to keep growing and keep getting better, and we've got more things to offer as we go down the road. So
yeah.
Good time to get on board.
You're going to be impressed. Hopefully you like the app, but there is much more to come. Not with just our program, but more than that. We'll get to it at some point in time. But one step at a time, and that is what Maction took, one step at a time to get back on the gridiron. They did last night. Well, it was a strange night, man. You had the dadgum lights shut out up there in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. You had an onside kick to open the season. You had some wacky stuff. That's why it's Maction.
I'll tell you this.
I love
when we talk to Rafael Esparza tomorrow. See, one of the cool things about wagering is live wagering.
Sure.
So when a favorite goes down and all of a sudden they become a good jump on, live wager, like Miami of Ohio last night, I appreciate you, Red Hawks. I appreciate you going down, and I appreciate the line moving, and I jumped on it, and it was great.
And you crushed it.
I did. Sure did.
Well, go Kent State. The Golden Flashes beat Eastern Michigan.
Yes, they did.
There you go. All the Michigans played last night. Eastern, Western, Central. There's a lot going on in Michigan these days.
There's 12 teams played last night in the MAC.
Yeah, and half of them are from Michigan. Kent State, they win. Western Michigan beat Akron. There you go. The old Michigan-Ohio battle there. Forget that Ohio State-Michigan crap. Western Michigan beat Akron big time. Buffalo over Northern Illinois. Central Michigan beat Ohio. Hey, how about that? Michigan owns the state of Ohio these days in football, huh?
Let's wait a couple of weeks. See if they can purchase some land back.
Oh, thank God for Toledo and Miami of Ohio. They both won last night. There is football tonight. It's that time of year, even with the late start to some of these leagues. It's that time of the year where you're going to start to get it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then, of course, the NFL guys on Sundays and Mondays. But tonight, you do have Utah State and Nevada at 7 o'clock on Fox Sports 1. Who cares? At 9, look, I'm not from Wyoming. I have in-laws out there. So I've adopted the Cowboys as my second team in college football. Okay, I've done this for, 7 years now. All right? This is a really cool rivalry. And I've been to both campuses. I've been to both stadiums. I've been all over Wyoming's. Wyoming at Colorado State in Fort Collins tonight at 9 o'clock. Probably going to be pretty cold at Canvas Stadium. This is a really, really good rivalry. They don't like each other. It's like Clemson, Carolina. And you think, well, Colorado and Wyoming, dude, they're not far apart. It's like an hour and a half maybe between these programs. They don't like each other. So that could be fun tonight at 9 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network. So there you go, some Thursday night football to get you fired up and ready to roll tonight. All right, again, Corey McCartney, Scott Glaze later on today. Can't wait for that Masters preview with our friend Scotty. He is the best out there. But right now, one of the best out there, he's on every week. He is the best out there. It's David Cloninger with the Post and Courier. We call him DC around here. You can call him whatever you want to. Look, before I let you speak, though, and we're going to talk about this gentleman here once we get to hoops and get out of football. Your article on Seventh Wood, David, Seventh Woods was really special, and I think that his story's been a little bit forgotten because people, you remind them this guy was a YouTube sensation. He was expected to be in the NBA after just a year in college, whatever. But he's still in college in his 5th year. That was awesome, man. Well done. I'm really, really happy I got to read that this morning.
I appreciate that, Jamie. It's one thing, when he first came in last year, of course, I did a story on him, but I wasn't going to talk about him again because he wasn't playing last year. It was just, unless something major popped up. So you certainly hope, that he will progress and then be a great player, a good, solid player for the Gamecocks this year. But I did think it was important to say, I don't think it's fair to call him a bust. It's just that, he's had so much happen to him really ever since that YouTube video of him when he was 14 years old come up. There was some other stuff I didn't have room for in the story that he's really gone through in his personal life, and it's not pleasant. So he's had a rough go of it, but in getting to talk to him even over Zoom, it's just good to see him back healthy and confident and smiling because, you could cheer for a kid like that. And you just hope for all the best. And, once the season gets started in a few weeks, you hope to see him out there and kind of doing what he did to get all of those, those recruiting accolades back in the day.
You're right. I encourage all of you, please go read this. Even if you're not a Carolina fan, this is a great read.
It's like a human interest story,
it
personal
is.
interest
It's a
story.
great. I'm telling you, it's a great read. PostandCourier.com is where you can, or just pull up the Post and Courier app. All right, we'll get to football. But first, how are you, DC? It's been a long week in America. How you doing, man?
I can't complain, man. It's a little bit chilly here, but I don't mind that.
No.
It's about time of year where you got to start raking leaves probably once every 2-3 days.
Sure.
But, I'm used to it. I'm getting used to this shorter days because of daylight savings. I had to go to Lowe's this morning and install an outside light over my grill so I can grill after 5 p.m. and it's not pitch black dark outside.
That is important.
But, it's part of the adjustments, being the family man and all that kind of stuff. So now if I can just teach my son to sleep past 4:30 instead of 5:30, that would be great. Because right now, those 4:30 wake-up calls aren't too pleasant.
Yeah, you're just learning that. The whole daylight savings thing, it doesn't exist for parents. So welcome.
When I was single, I'd usually be in the night about 4:30. But that was a long, long time ago.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, we had to go through this last year with twins, so I get it. I totally get it. I try not to be a one-upper about anything, and that's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm just simply saying, I get it.
But I am one-upper.
Yeah, I get it. Well, we'll be tailgating in the dark if you choose to tailgate, and if you choose to go to the ball game between A&M and South Carolina at 7 o'clock on Saturday night, of course, nationally televised on ESPN. So here we go, DC. Let's start with the positive here. I know there's not a lot of positive when you get thumped by LSU going into an off week, but there are some positives going into the game. Will Muschamp 4-0 as a Gamecock coming off of a bye week. This game is back at home, and it's another opportunity to upset one of the top teams, at least rankings-wise, in college football. This one would be a top 10 win over the Aggies. So what does this matchup look like versus years past? A&M's got one loss. It's a big loss to Alabama, but there are some that think maybe this is just the second best team, or this could be the second best team in the SEC.
Sure. They are getting a lot of the praise right now. They're kind of the flavor of the month just because they're kind of the last team standing right now. Georgia's got a loss. Of course, Alabama's running roughshod over everybody, which you would expect. Tennessee's kind of come back down to earth. You don't know how good Florida is. I think we'll see a lot of determination on that this weekend after the cocktail party game. So A&M's kind of stepped into that role of saying, hey, we're here too, and we're the guys. So they certainly have a lot going for them. There's a lot of talent on that team. They've got a 4-year starting quarterback. They've got a great tailback in Isaiah Spiller. They've got a lot of talent out there. I don't know that I'm looking at them and saying, oh, well, that's the team that is really going to kind of be that second team in the SEC West behind Bama just yet. And it's just because in years past, under Jimbo, And under Kevin Sumlin, there was always that one game mid-year where A&M just didn't look very good and lost to a team they probably should have beaten. And you're like, oh, okay, well, see, that's why. That's why they're not 10-2. That's why they're going to be 8-5. So that hasn't happened yet. And obviously we're playing in a shortened season. So we'll see what happens on Saturday night. I mean, it's weird. I actually asked Will Muschamp at the press conference saying, did you ever talk to the guys before the Auburn game about not ever beating Auburn as a member of the SEC? And he said, no. I said, oh, okay. Because if he had said yes, I'm like, well, it's kind of the same situation here. You haven't beaten A&M since you joined the SEC. But it's one of those cases where, I know that A&M is expected to win. They do things well that South Carolina does not stop. But this being a crazy year, this being where A&M has yet to play, kind of that bad game that they do every year, I would not be surprised to see South Carolina win this game. Now, I'm not going to pick them to win, but I would not be surprised to see it in keeping with the vein of this crazy year.
Well, I agree, and I think one of the things you're referencing there is A&M runs the football well, and Carolina does not stop it well. The last even though they're 1-1 in their last two games, they do have that win over Auburn. They didn't stop the run in that game, and they certainly didn't stop it against LSU. What does that matchup look like in your mind right now?
It's not looking good, especially where I'm hearing that Jamar Brown, who the Gamecocks just got back against LSU, might have suffered a pretty serious injury at practice the other day. I'm hoping to get some clarification about that before Will Muschamp has his call-in show tonight. We will see what happens. But if what I was hearing is accurate, then he will not be playing this game or the rest of the season.
Oh, no.
So it doesn't look real good from a linebacker standpoint. Pretty much they've been playing dime and nickel almost exclusively because they just haven't had that many linebackers. You've got Ernest Jones, you've got Damani Staley, and really who else do you have? Rosendo Lewis has been hurt, Green's been hurt, Jamar Brown's been hurt, now might be hurt even more. They really don't have another guy to plug in there. Spencer Easton-Riddle is also hurt now for the year. So you look at that and say, man, if you can't stop them up front, I don't know if the second level is going to get them. And then if a guy's got a full head of steam past that second level, I don't know if your defensive backs are going to be able to bring them down either. So it's really, really imperative that USC's defensive line has a great game on Saturday night, because if they don't stop them, the Gamecocks don't have a lot of other options to stop that run.
Well, Will Muschamp mentioned on Tuesday that, Mo Kaba might get some time this week. Is that maybe what you're hearing because of this potential major injury to Jamar Brown? Maybe this is a chance for this young freshman to get in there and get some snaps?
I'm thinking he's going to have to. I mean, because who else is there?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, at this point, it's kind of like, was it last year where they couldn't keep a healthy safety on the field, and then the year before where it was wide receivers and safeties? It's just crazy how not only the injuries seem to happen, but they all seem to happen at the same spot. And it's just a really rough way to try to prepare for that kind of thing, especially when A&M's going to run the ball, and they do have a quarterback who can hurt you with his legs. So it's going to be a tough matchup. But, if USC's offense can come to play, I think that there are some things in A&M's defense that they can exploit. Now, is it going to be Alabama, running free down the field with Jalen Waddle and all those guys? No. But I think that there are things that they can do to say they're quicker on offense than A&M is on defense. And I think that they can exploit that as long as they get the run game established early. Now, that's going to be its own problem in itself, because at least with the stats, A&M's second in the league in rush defense. And that's not a real good thing to see coming into this game.
No, certainly not. And South Carolina, they're best when their identity is run first, throw second. But, Colin Hill's now had an off week to kind of try to readjust and get back into the swing of things. When you look at it, you mentioned there's a couple of holes maybe in that A&M defense. They've played 5 games. They are 4-1. They've given up over 30 in 3 of those 5. Now, 2 of those offenses are named Alabama and Florida. The other one, though, is Arkansas in the last game they played. They did score 31 on the A&M D. But, Colin, look, I watched Colin yesterday. I watched him speak with the media, DC, and – I'm this is going to come off kind of rude, but I'm trying to be funny here. I really don't mean this in a bad way. He talks to the media like he played the LSU game. just kind of, well, yeah, I don't read anything. We're just here to do our job, and this, you know what I mean? It was very nonchalant, but I'm kind of hoping that attitude is able to help him moving forward, coming off of his worst game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is true. I mean, and the fact is just, Colin Hill didn't play well at LSU, and of course, this being 2020 and social media being what it is, everybody looked at him automatically and said, well, there's the problem. Well, Colin Hill didn't play very well, and no one's, excusing that. But he didn't give up a kickoff return for a touchdown. He didn't play defense and couldn't stop the run.
Right. He
didn't miss 3 field goals. And he didn't send, one of those field goals out for a 54-yarder knowing that his kicker can't make 54-yarders. He didn't do any of that. And I realized people were like, well, he's plant-footed back there. He's a statue. Yeah, I mean, he took 5 sacks, and 2 of them were avoidable. He could have gotten the ball away because there was time to do it.
Sure.
But Youngin tried to make a play and paid for it. The thing is, though, he can't block for himself either. And I feel bad for him because what I was trying to ask him was just like, look, man, I mean, you're the quarterback, so even when your teammates screw up, when your left tackle whiffs a block, when your running back doesn't hit the hole, when your receiver drops the ball, how difficult is it to say, hey, man, it's okay, and not say, man, you got to help me out here,
Right.
So it's tough, because, being QB1, you get the glory and you get the target. It's that simple. So it's a tough position for him to be in. I realize a lot of people were saying, you got to make a change. But I'm like, well, nothing against Ryan Helinski's talent. But if you're looking for straight mobility, he's not going to help you. And Luke Doty can help you with mobility, and nothing against his arm talent. But I don't know if you're going to want to put a true freshman in a game for the first time against the number 7 team in the country. So it's, they picked Colin Hill because he won the job, because he gives them the best chance to win. And I don't know of anybody who was actually expecting Colin to come in and be a 300-yard per game guy, the Roman Gabriel look, standing tall in the pocket, delivering that strike on 3rd down to move the chains. He's just not that kind of QB. He's a guy who will help you win, and very rarely is it going to be his fault that they lost the game. Now, that pick 6 he threw against LSU, that's half on him and half on Jalen Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to get into the particulars of what the actual percentage is. Let's just say both are at fault. But you look at the rest of his season, Jamie, and that's really the only bad play he's had. The other 2 interceptions he's thrown were both tip balls. And I know he's misfired on a few plays, but, it's also tough to throw anything when you got B.J. Ojolari wanting to plant his helmet in your spleen 3 seconds after the snap. And there's nothing Colin Hill can do about that. I mean, I realized, he could run. I'm like, mobile quarterbacks are mobile quarterbacks, but let's not, lose the point here. There's Colin Hill who can move out of danger, but he's never going to be a Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson who can sprint his way out of trouble. That's just not ever what he's been or whatever he's going to be. But the line has got to give him a little bit more protection so he can try to stay in and make those plays that they know he can make.
Well, that's a really good point. And we talked to Perry the other day. We've talked to Perry a couple of times this year, actually the last couple of weeks, about Colin. And as the season started, outside of Shi Smith, didn't really have anything there. But, DC, is there maybe a feel that offensively, look, this is going to be game 2 for Jalen Brooks. He spoke yesterday about kind of changing positions within the position at wide receiver, getting used to some different things as opposed to what he used to do when he was at Tarleton State or actually prior to that at Wingate. Is there maybe a little bit of a better feel that he's got? He actually maybe has more targets now. If Brooks gets a little bit more comfortable, he's able to emerge as a little bit of a danger for defenses to cover. And we saw Kevion Mullins. Are we able to look at this? Does the program look at this and say, look, we've got 2, 3, maybe 4 options right now, but now we just need to figure out how to get them the ball.
Yeah, sure, and that's really what they've been looking for all season. I realized that Brooks didn't play that well against LSU, and that the pick 6 was not good, and that's on him as well as Hill. But there are also a couple times where he was open and Hill overthrew him. And that's not Brooks' fault. That's just bad throws happen. But with him, it was a case of he was still practicing with the scout team. He was still running some drills. But, when they knew he wasn't eligible, what do you do with the game plan? You're not going to design stuff for him that you can't use. So then he's put into the game plan 2 days before they go. So I think you look at that and say, well, it was kind of a perfect storm where they expected so much, and then the first game just wasn't going to be good because of the hurriedness of it. Now he doesn't have that. You had a whole bye week to practice and get better. You've had this other extra week to prepare for A&M. And, I think that they trust the kid to go out there and make some plays, because not only was he on scout team, not only was he practicing as a number one receiver, who was he going up against every day in practice? J.C. Horn and Israel Matuama,
right.
So the guy knows what he's doing, and he can make some plays. They just got to get him in position to make those plays, because as we saw at LSU, the Tigers did what the 4 other opponents USC's played this year tried to do. It's like, look, double team at number 13 because they ain't got nobody else.
Yeah.
And it worked. And it's not really because of the other receivers didn't make moves. It's just Hill couldn't connect with them for whatever reason. He overthrew a lot of guys. But then again, you had a guy like Kevion Mullins who should be healthy enough to play this week. He had a little bit of an ankle problem over the bye week, but he should be good to go this week. 2 catches, 101 yards. So that's just a case of like, all right, just throw it out there in front of him. And if he's close, he's going to get it, and he's going to run for a long way, because not only is the guy faster than a man that size should be, it's really hard to bring him down on a first hit, especially when you're trying to chase him from behind.
Yeah, no doubt. Carolina could be debuting a couple of new guys. Jaheim Bell might get in there. There's a bunch of young guys that they've signed that they've been excited about, but just haven't really been ready to play. So maybe we'll see some of them this weekend. Maybe they'll be contributors. Here's the thing with Carolina. We'll leave it at this, DC, with football. They are 2-3. Most expected them to be 2-3. Maybe not looking the way it did, but they are 2-3, and they have a chance to be 3-3 with 2 top 15 wins this year. And I know some question the Auburn win, but at the end of the day, you never beat them, so that matters in itself. Auburn's 4-2, and their only other loss is to Georgia right now. So, it's looking more and more like a pretty good win. This obviously, I think, will be probably the best win of the year if they can get it. But it's going to be hard right now. 10-point dogs, but they are home, and Will Muschamp 4-0 at South Carolina after an off week. So we'll see what he's got for old Jimbo, right?
Well, I mean, you hope so. And the fact is, listen, these are all going to be tough. You knew that coming in. But if they can get this, and be 3-3 and say, look, I didn't think that they would maybe win 3 games all season, much less in their first 6. And when you say it, it's like, okay, well, I probably thought that they could beat Tennessee, but they weren't going to beat Auburn because they never beat Auburn. Well, look what happened. They did beat Auburn. They lost to Tennessee, but it's a crazy year. Strange things have happened. So all you can do is lace them up and go out there Saturday night. And I realize that A&M's really good. They're confident. And, I mean, just looking at Kellen Mond's numbers against South Carolina the last 3 years, you're like, ugh.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's got to be due for a bad game, right? But I mean, he hadn't had one yet, so I don't know. And you look at last year and say, I don't know if it really mattered what Kellen Mond or Spiller or the rest of those guys did, because South Carolina didn't have the offense last year.
No, it was terrible.
You guys remember that game?
Oh, it was terrible.
Went into it, and you knew right before the game that Brian Edwards was out.
Right. Yep.
Shy Smith was out. 3 running backs were out. And they'd lost a couple other guys that week, too. It was like, how do you even try to play? And you saw it, man. I mean, there was just nothing they could do offensively. And they ended up just kicking a field goal just to avoid getting skunked. But it was one of those cases where before the game, especially when Edwards was out, I was like, oh, well, I mean, there ain't no way, man. There is no way. Might as well just get back on the plane and go home.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of people that thought they'd win that game anyways, and then when that information came out, it was like, well, this ain't going to be close, and it wasn't.
Right.
But we'll see. Maybe it'll be different this year for South Carolina. Here's the thing for the fan base. If they pull an upset, if they pull a major upset Saturday night, you look at the next 2 games and you go, well, no, wait a second here. We got to go to Ole Miss, and we got Missouri.
Let me stop you right there, Jamie, okay? If they pull the upset, and again, I've said it on the record, I think I would not be surprised if it happened. But you should know, of all people, especially after a big win,
no, I know.
never look ahead to South Carolina football.
No.
You don't.
I get it.
It truly is a 1-week season because this is not a program that likes to build on teams, So, I mean, and I'll say it again, because I'm the one that called it, and I've been taking crap about it for 10 years. They beat number 1 Alabama in 2010. Beat them.
Yep.
And who was the first one to say it? You know, it's times like these that I think of a 10-year winning streak over Kentucky and start to really get nervous about the next week. And what happened?
Yep. Yep.
I mean, I don't like to say I can predict the future, but when it comes to this program, I'm like, I've got a pretty good idea what's going to happen.
Yeah.
There are patterns. We've seen a pattern or two.
I remember that well. Yeah, Marcus goes down, and Carolina's running roughshed over the Wildcats. And at halftime hits, Marcus goes down, and the offense went down with it, and Kentucky came back, and somehow, wow. But,
ran the same play for about, 18 straight times into the game?
Yep.
Same play. Quarterback draw. Same play.
It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right, I do want to hit on some hoops and some baseball real quick. I know we only have a couple minutes left, so these don't need to be long. The women's non-con is out. It's once again, it's tough. Of note, though, they do open with the College of Charleston. They have the Thanksgiving tournament. They do have NC State at home, at Iowa State in the Big 12 Challenge, Temple, and then, of course, there's that big one lying right there at the end of this thing, the non-con schedule, February 8th up in stores at UConn. So it's a really good – they've had to make adjustments, but it's a really good non-con DC. When do we expect the full schedule?
It's up to the conference office. I haven't heard like an ETA or anything like that, but now that the non-con schedule is out, hopefully they'll be getting that thing in pretty soon. But I think that USC did the best they could under the circumstances. They had to lose the trip to the Bahamas to play in the Battle for Atlantis tournament. Yep. They had to lose the trip to Oregon. They lose a game against Maryland, but they ended up getting a game against NC State, which will be top 10 this year and has a first-team All-American on their roster. So that's a really good game that they can get. And obviously they had to lose the Clemson game too. First time since the series started in 76 that it won't be played, but it's just the dates, man. I mean, they lost 3 whole weeks of the season with it being pushed back, so that just could not make it work. And I was able to confirm that Thanksgiving tournament, Clemson won't be a part of it, so there definitely won't be a Clemson game. But with that tournament, it will happen. They hope to be able to put out the teams today, but just yesterday, something happened with that tournament. One of the teams had to drop out.
Oh,
so this is just what we're dealing with every single day, So, but as for the way they had to scramble to put this together, it's a very impressive non-con schedule.
So then this is the same thing with the men. I guess we're waiting on the league office. Okay. Now, what about the non-con schedule for the men?
Same thing. I mean, they were supposed to have it out probably a couple of weeks ago, and Frank Martin even said he couldn't say the team. He was like, we've got one team kind of local that will probably be the opening game if it's not like a scrimmage. Like, oh, okay. And I think I pretty much knew who it was. I'm not going to say it now because I don't think they're on the schedule anymore. But, yeah, that game fell through.
Okay.
So they couldn't release it. It's crazy how this happens. But they do know that they want to open on the 25th. When everybody else does. Right now, they can't say if they're going to because they don't have a signed contract. But there will be a game in Kansas City on the 28th. They will play Northwestern in I think it's the Champions Classic is what it's called. And then the next day they'll play another game against another team out there. So that'll be their tournament. But the rest of the games, they're going to play Houston in the AAC Challenge. Yeah. They are hoping to retain the Clemson game, but again, the dates are not lining up very well. It's tough just because the ACC's got to play 20 conference games. They play some of those in December. USC is going to play a conference game in December. It's really tough to try to get all this stuff lined up to where the teams can play, but they're working on it, and hopefully it'll be out pretty soon. Okay.
Now, is there any chance that they can do what some of these I don't want to call them smaller leagues, but maybe like G5 leagues, something like that, are doing where they just double dip in some of these 2 home games, 2 road games, things like that?
I think that the SEC is looking at that and trying to keep it as much of a geographical bubble as possible. But it wouldn't be like, say you're supposed to play every team twice each, which isn't really the scheduling format, but at least it is in your division, where it's not exactly fair. But you would have to go and say, like, go to Tennessee and play your 2 games right then on a Friday and a Sunday. Or Georgia would come to South Carolina and play 2 games on a Friday or a Sunday. That's at least what they're considering to try to limit the travel, but I don't know how it's going to officially work out because every team's got to play 18 games.
Right.
And, it's really tough to try to judge that travel, especially when it's like, well, I mean, does Carolina even go to A&M this year? you're supposed to under the regular schedule. You got to play them at least once. But do you really want to limit that, or do you really want to try to schedule that when it's such a long trip for either one of the teams? So it's always going to be something that's popping up in this age of COVID, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always going to be a better way or a worse way to do something, and they're trying to figure out the best way for all 14 teams involved.
Final question. I don't know if you got to take in any of the Garnet and Black World Series with Gamecock baseball. I know we'll speak. I think next week. I think it is when we'll talk to Skyler or Mark, one of them. What'd you see out there from everything I've been told? And this is public. I think everything I've been told, but by the staff themselves, this is a pretty damn good baseball team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent on that field, Jamie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talent on that field, and especially on the pitcher's mound. And, of course, you're playing against yourself, so it's kind of like a football scrimmage. Well, offense is doing good and the defense is terrible, that kind of thing. But there's an awful lot of talented ball players on this baseball team. And the only fear, I would say, is finding out which are your best 9 because, they've been through an extended fall practice. They got to play 7 games of the Garnet and Black World Series, which they still got a couple left to go. But the main thing is it's a good problem to have, but you can only play 9 at a time. So they're just going to have to figure that out. But they've gotten an extended look at all these guys, and they at least have a good idea of what their lineup's going to look at once February comes around. And then I, of course, have to say, assuming they start in February.
Right.
Because the schedule there is still way up in the air. They have no idea what's going to happen with that. So it's just going to have to, go through it and get with it because I do want to see these guys play when the lights come on. I mean, there is a whole lot of talent on this ball club.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. For the first time in a while, I think Carolina fans, I'll say it. I know this program inside and out. I'll say it. This isn't a team that you say, well, we hope they hit their stride in April. No, they'll probably hit their stride pretty quick if they're as good as they should be. This team's good.
They were saying at the end of last year.
That's one thing, Jeremy. Normally, you want to go ahead and warm up against your non-conference teams. That's what it's there. That's what they're there for before you hit the crucible of SEC play. It may come to pass this year if they only play SEC games. I don't know. I mean, I have no idea how the schedule's going to look, but it's one of those where, well, look, if you got to start out with an SEC team on a weekend series, they're in the same boat as you are.
Yeah,
that's right.
So hope you get it at home and play it.
You're right. David, thank you so much. I know that you got a lot going on. Thank you. We really appreciate your time today. Everybody, make sure you pick up the Post and Courier. A wonderful article in there on Seventh Woods. It really needs to be read. I hope he is a North Carolina transfer like Larry Davis. I hope he's the next Larry Davis.
Everyone does.
Right?
Well, it's like I pointed out in the piece, Jamie. Seventh gets to wear number 23 at USC because it was obviously retired at North Carolina.
Yep.
A guy named Jordan was pretty good up there.
Yeah, heard of him. Good player.
But he's wearing number 23, and he's a UNC transfer who's coming back home after winning a national championship with the Tar Heels. The last time that happened, South Carolina won the SEC for the first and only time 23 years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
I love stuff.
Look at that.
Oh, man.
Dropping dimes like that.
I mean, if that doesn't give you goosebumps, what will? Holy moly. Nice work.
As a guy who still remembers every game of that season.
Yep.
I'm like, man, I know not to hope too much, but it sure would be fun to see it again.
Well, look, if they have 3 guards on this team, like the 3 guards on that team, they got a good chance. You need a good old Bud Johnson out there too, and a Ryan Stack. But
Bud the stud.
Yeah, man, what a dude. That was fun. It doesn't seem like 23 years ago. That was a long year for the Kentucky Wildcats when they had to play the Gamecocks. That's for sure. Hey, man, thank you so much. Love it. Great stuff. We'll talk to you next week.
No problem, Jamie. Thanks for having me.
There you go. Wow, that was a nice dime. Tweet it. What's Dabo say? Tweet that. Print that. Hey, that's good stuff.
Uh-huh.
All right, Corey's mad. He's waiting in Atlanta.
Yeah, I told him we were running late. He's like, okay.
Okay. All right. Well, he's on when we return.
Is your old car really scary? Does it look dreadful or smell awful? Don't be frightened. There's never been a better time to trade in your spooky old car. Stokes Volkswagen just received a new shipment of the VW Atlas and VW Crossport. But Here's what makes that even sweeter. Every new Atlas and Crossport is $3,000 off MSRP. Plus, every 2020 Volkswagen is available with 0% financing. That's right. You get both the huge discount and 0% financing. So if you want to play trick or treat at other dealerships, that's okay. Come see us at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or visit stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Plus tax tag includes $399.50 closing fee. Offer subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
The best cheesesteak in Charleston is at DB's Cheesesteaks. JB here. We say it every day, and we mean it. You voted for them. Let DB's Cheesesteaks in Avondale and West Ashley feed your family this football season. Use your favorite delivery app. Have them dropped off before your favorite game. And don't forget the boardwalk fries. They come with the Old Bay seasoning. DB'sCheesesteaks.com for the full menu. Hoagies, hot dogs, burgers, and more. DB's Cheesesteaks, the best cheesesteak in Charleston, the best cheesesteak for football.
Family Bingo Night is back. All 3 Dog and Duck locations. Every Monday from 6 to 8 is the perfect time to bring the kids, have dinner, and play bingo. They've upped the prizes with retail store gift cards, gas cards, in-house cash cards, and kid-friendly gift cards like Nintendo, pizza, App Store, and more. Thanks for supporting local businesses like the Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
Now, hear this.
Who the hell is that?
The JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
All right, 1241. Welcome back to JB and Goldwater Show. Driven by Stokes Volkswagen. It's Thursday. Buy one, get one half off. Foot-long cheesesteaks at DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley and Avondale. Don't forget they deliver. Head to dbscheesesteaks.com for their entire menu. All right. I'm sorry, Corey. I'm sorry. Corey McCartney in Atlanta, Georgia, joining us. He's one of our favorite people around here, and we make him wait from time to time, and that's not fair. So we'll send you a cheesesteak in the mail.
I can't imagine what that's going to – no, you can have it for me. We're good.
Well, look, man, here's the thing.
You don't want a cheesesteak?
So
through the mail. He just
okay. All right.
Let me tell you, this is a pretty funny story. Let me tell you about this. So my father-in-law lives in Laramie, Wyoming. He's a big outdoorsman, hunts and fishes and stuff like that. So a few years ago, he said, I got something coming in the mail. And we're like, all right, that sounds good. Well, there was a hurricane that came through, and the mail got backed up.
Okay.
And so we weren't really – we were getting mail late from wherever. I can't remember what hurricane it was. And I think this was in 2016. And then like a week after it was supposed to be here, it came, and he had wrapped up and frozen a bunch of fish. But because there was an extra week sitting in a box and all this wrapping – it was leaking from the box. I can only imagine what the
sounds awful.
What the postal service guy thought. Like, what the hell is in this thing?
Sounds disgusting.
Yeah, so we opened it and we're like, I don't think we're going to be able to eat that.
No.
So, we had to throw it away. So, sorry, Pop. It never got eaten. I think he knows.
So, not only are we like 10 minutes late getting to you, but we lead you in with a bad stinking fish
story. Yeah,
huh?
That's right. Yeah.
Good day.
Sounds like Jamie's in the mob.
Well, I was off last Thursday, so I got to get whatever's on my chest off of it with you today. All right, 12:43 here with Corey. We're going to get to some football here in a minute. We've got the off season in baseball that's now begun, Corey. But from what I keep hearing, it could be a rather quiet off season. Is that true, and why?
Yeah, look, I think you're going to have a lot of teams that are going to have to kind of pull back a little bit, and I think spending is going to be limited. Obviously at this point we haven't heard directly how much it's impacting organizations, but the Rockies GM just sent out a letter that it said they talked about kind of curbing spending a little bit as well. Obviously they just signed Nolan Arenado to that big deal, and now it doesn't look like they're going to be real active in trying to aid him this year. I think you're going to see those real high end free agents are still going to get deals. I just don't know that they're going to be to the degree that we thought they were going to be a year ago. There's going to be a lot of guys. Remember 2 years ago we were talking about a really slow moving free agent class where you had guys like Mike Moustakas going in and taking 1 year deals, and everyone wondered what was going on. There were talks of collusion. this time it's going to be very different, and it's going to be driven by the fact that these teams lost a lot of money this last year without the revenue of attendance. So, as I mentioned last week when you were gone, I think it's really going to be imperative this year as they start to look at how 2021 looks, that the owners are honest with the players this time and really open up the books and explain to them from a financial end how it is that they're hurting so badly, so we can have some calmer negotiations. But I firmly expect we're going to see some quiet maneuvers this year without question.
What about Trevor Bauer? It looks like he's rejected the Reds' qualifying offer, but he can return to Cincinnati. Where is he in the free agent market? I think that offer was right around $19 million or so, upper 18s. Where is he in the market? Is Atlanta in the market for a big arm like Trevor Bauer?
Qualifying offer this year, and in a normal environment, I think the speculation was, and remember, Trevor Bauer has been kind of clear, I want to go on one-year deals and kind of have this mercenary vibe. Doesn't want to be locked down anywhere. And, there was speculation that could get you somewhere in the region of $30 million if you're Trevor Bauer and you're looking to go on one-year deals. Is he going to change that, thinking, given this environment, our team's going to be willing to go that high for him? I think, look, you can go back to the Reds. Obviously, if he's going to go anywhere else now, there's going to be a draft pick compensation involved. But, I would imagine as great as he was last year, and if he only wants to go on a one-year deal, and, many GMs will tell you there's no such thing as a bad one-year deal. Going 24, 25 north of that, I don't think that's that crazy when you're talking about it just being a one-year commitment. And I do think the Braves should be very much in the mix for him. Look, Mike Soroka is probably going to get back a couple weeks, a month into the 21 season, but we don't know for sure. And what we do know is, as great as, the pitching was in the postseason, and, obviously we saw Bryce Wilson, put together that great outing. You got to add another guy along with Soroka, Friedman, and Anderson. And if you were to add Trevor Bauer to that mix, you're talking about one of the best rotations in baseball. And, I think the Braves should be very much in the mix for him.
All right. When will we get something official on whether the DH will stick around in the National League?
I don't have the answer for you on that. Winter meetings, which is next month, the GM meetings, the owners meetings, winter meetings have now all gone virtual. So we're not going to have that normal industry buzz that we're used to having. At some point, the players in the union and the league are going to have to sit down and hammer out, what does 21 look like? When do we start? How many games do we play? From a revenue sharing standpoint, what's that model going to look like? This is going to be a nugget that the players are going to have, in terms of the revenue side of getting that extra money for a DH. I don't think it's going to be decided anytime soon. I think teams, though, should be operating like it's going to happen. I would have a really hard time believing that we go back to 1 year before the 21 CBA expiration and the talk of a new CBA deal, that we go in 1 year with the pitchers hitting again. I think they'll get it hammered out, but there's no timetable right now.
There was some whispers that some of the other rules that were used during this pandemic season might also get extended. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, I've heard Rob Manfred say that he likes the extra inning, with putting a guy on second base. So I think that's probably going to be something that you could see stick as well. Pace of play obviously is a big issue for him. We know there's going to be continued expanded postseason. I don't think it's going to be to the degree it was this year. I think the culmination of a 60-game season, they wanted to make sure as many teams got in as possible. I think going forward, you're going to see those top seeds get a bye. I think it's only right that if a team wins 100 games in a 162-game season, that they don't have to play a first-round opponent. But yeah, I think from the early talks, I think we could see that extra innings rule continue to apply.
Wow, baseball is different than what it used to be. I know one thing, that DH rule, that will significantly, I believe, Corey, correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe it would change the market for a number of players out there. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, look, obviously Marcell Ozuna, is atop the Braves list of the guys leaving. They had 10 free agents out the door, and that's, number one if you're trying to keep guys intact. Think about Nelson Cruz. 40-year-old Nelson Cruz had another ridiculously productive season, but he's not playing in the field for half this league if there's no designated hitter. So, obviously if there is, the market on a guy like that expands as well. So, I think those two players in particular, if there's a DH in the National League, you just talked about, 15 more teams that are going to be knocking down their doors.
All right, go Braves. Braves win the 2021 World Series. All right, Corey, let's get into some football here. The biggest game of the weekend is the top 5 matchup in South Bend. I think you and Darren discussed this last week, and I know you talked about it as it pertains to the Heisman Trophy, but I'm not sure if y'all have talked since it was been cleared up that Trevor Lawrence is not playing in this game.
No, that was a couple hours after the show on Thursday.
Okay, all right. Well, good. I'm glad I'm back. So, missing the Boston College game, you're a Heisman voter, so you speak on this from your own perspective. But, I don't think that missing the Boston College game was the biggest of deals for Trevor Lawrence as it pertained to winning the Heisman Trophy, which would be the first ever Heisman Trophy winner at Clemson University. I do think, though, not playing in this game will significantly hurt his chances because of the platform, 7:30 on NBC. I mean, that's huge, and it's not a knock against him. It's just the fact that there's a lot of people who maybe haven't seen enough of Trevor, and this is the best opportunity he's got all year, and I think that's going to hurt him.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I think when he missed that first game, it was pretty much out the window. You're talking about since 1943, 4 guys have won missing a game. No one's missed more than 2 games, and none of it's happened since we've had the college football playoff, since we had the BCS before that. You got to play, and obviously this season is a little bit different when you think about if he had played a full season, he still would have played more games than Mac Jones potentially could play. He's obviously still, if he comes back next week, going to play more games than Justin Fields would with that 8-game Big Ten schedule, but I think now, unfortunately, it's done. He is not going to win the Heisman Trophy in 2020. It's just not going to happen. Wow. Vegas has now pushed him down to 3rd on their boards. I mean, again, I mentioned, the last guy who missed multiple games was Angelo Bertelli in 1943 for Notre Dame, and he only played 4 games because he was called to active military duty by the Marines. Obviously, there's this extenuating circumstances in Trevor Lawrence not playing last week and this week. But when you have other guys who are continuing to put up big numbers, and obviously you mentioned it, this is the game for Clemson's season. Now you could flip around and get another matchup with Notre Dame in the ACC title game. Miami continues to rise. You could get another matchup with them, but no game is going to be bigger or have a broader spotlight on it than this one on Saturday night. And him not being there, I think that just kind of seals the whole deal.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with that. And the difference in this game and then maybe playing another one against Notre Dame down the road is you're not going to play another one in South Bend. And I don't care that there's not going to be 80,000 fans in the you're still having to play on the road. Mm-hmm. That's significant.
Yeah, and we're obviously going to think about these two teams differently at that point too, right? I mean, let's say Clemson loses and they lose by 3 points. I mean, then Notre Dame's still going to be, potentially a top 5, top 3 team if they were to meet again. But what if the score is heavily in favor of one of these other teams? Think about how many times in the past we've got amped for Notre Dame, and then by season's end we were wondering why we were ever amped for Notre Dame. I mean, this stuff happens a lot, and you look back at the complexity of a team at season's end, and it's very different. I mean, they could still get there, and they could have a very different appeal nationally than they do now. This is the moment that matters, and unfortunately, he won't be there for it.
What about for Notre Dame? If Notre Dame loses this game and still gets back to the ACC championship, are they out of the college football playoff? If they lose this game, I think we agree if Clemson loses and then wins the ACC, they're in. But if Notre Dame loses and wins, are they out?
If they win out, I mean, I think there's the potential that they could still get in there. I mean, look, the Big 12 is all but played itself out of this at this point. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know that there's a Pac-12 team that's really all that viable. And then you're, looking at does the SEC put 2 in? What does the Big 10 bring to the table? Is Wisconsin going to be able to, to get itself together? I don't think you can take Notre Dame out of the equation if they lose this game and they can still come back, because if Clemson wins and they continue to be number 1, and then you've got Notre Dame in an ACC title game situation, potentially knocking off the top team in the country, I mean, that's going to be a really nice piece on their resume going into those final rankings.
Well, I would think, and I get what Darren's saying. On the surface, Darren, I would tend to agree with you, but I would think it would actually probably matter more if they lose the game. Talking about Notre Dame here, how they lose the game. I mean, if
that's true too.
If it's 30-27 because of a whatever it is, but if it's 30-3, I mean, that's 2 different ways to look at this Notre Dame football team.
Especially if Lawrence isn't there. I mean, if right. Clemson smokes them and there's no Trevor Lawrence, That's why I say, I mean, we could look at Notre Dame in a completely different light after this game and a completely different light when we get to the ACC title game. But it's got to be close, I think, for Notre Dame to still stay in the mix for this thing.
All right, so but Clemson. All right, so Lawrence isn't in there, but he's not the only guy. I mean, James Skalski's out of the game. Linebacker Mike Jones is out of the game. Defensive tackle Tyler Davis is out of the game. I mean, these are maybe their three best players on defense. Xavier Thomas is going to miss the first half. How much does that play or factor into the way people view this matchup and the outcome of it?
I mean, Ian Book is really good. I mean, I think that's something, he kind of gets lost in the shuffle sometimes. We start talking about, obviously this season everyone was talking about Lawrence and Justin Fields, and, Mac Jones has obviously made his own push here. Derek King was a guy that a lot of people were talking about in Heisman circles. Ian Book has always been a kind of that dark horse kind of guy for me. He's somebody I think that could really, have a lot to gain in this game, especially, if he plays well and the Irish pull the upset.
What's interesting about the Heisman situation this weekend? Mac Jones and Alabama, they're off.
Yep.
Trevor's not playing. Justin Fields, if you're a Heisman voter and you're like, these are my top three guys, that's who you're watching. But this is also maybe a great opportunity for Travis Etienne, right? I mean, I know that he's on the outside looking in, but Travis Etienne is the guy still that's going to play for Clemson that is at least in the conversation for the Heisman Trophy. Could he get himself really, truly back into a real conversation to win this thing with a huge game in South Bend?
I think he could. I mean, look, he was big last weekend. I mean, at 200+ all-purpose yards on the day, and he's got to start making those numbers though that we're used to. Those 100-yard games have got to start to become a lot more the norm for him. And obviously they use him in different ways, and he does so much for them. But I think that's got to be a piece of the puzzle for him if he's going to push his way back into this thing.
Well, according to Dabo Sweeney, DJ
Ungalale.
DJU once threw a football so hard he was scared somebody would get hurt. So Dabo apparently thinks that they got it. Whatever. This kid, it's his second start, and he's on the road in South Bend. Based on what you saw last weekend, how do you anticipate this true freshman DJU, as I'm going to call him, handles this moment?
I think you said it. There's not going to be 80,000 people there, right? I mean, I think that's kind of the weirdness of all this, right? It doesn't matter where you're playing. I mean, you're not have still that same environment. I think where we're used to, where you have having it being quite as rowdy. I think that definitely you can talk about the echoes or whatever with Notre Dame. It's just not going to be the same environment. I think when you're somebody who's part of a program like this and they kind of instill how we operate, I wouldn't be all that concerned about it. This is a good Notre Dame defense. I mean, if you watch them against Georgia Tech, they looked really solid in that game, and that's a pretty wide open offense that Jeff Collins is running there, with Georgia Tech now. So they're well prepared, but I would think Dabo is going to have DJ ready to roll.
All right, sticking with the Big Ten, Corey McCartney on Twitter at Corey J. McCartney is in Atlanta, Georgia on this Thursday afternoon. I think we're going to go right through the top of the hour here, and then we'll break, and then we'll come back. Let's talk about your Michigan Wolverines. I'm kidding. They are 1-1 though on the road at Indiana this weekend, and FootballScoop.com today has a column out that Jim Harbaugh may be open to heading back to the NFL. Good timing. They are 3.
I'm open to finding a job if I don't have one too.
Yeah, they are 3.5-point favorites. The loss last week for Michigan though to Michigan State, it was shocking to me after pounding Minnesota, and then they go home and lose to Michigan State. How do you explain that loss? And are we really going to see a matchup this weekend where Indiana is a better football team than Michigan?
Whoop. Where'd Corey go?
Can he hear us? Did we lose him?
I think we may have lost Corey.
Oh, no. Well, did he take offense to my poking at him about Michigan?
That must have been exactly what it is.
Okay. I'll tell you what.
If
we
lost
him,
we can
let's
back.
hit a break. Let's hit the break.
All right, let's do
that. And then we're going to bring Corey back for round 2. We love Corey. I'll ask that question again. We'll get into the cocktail party and much, much more right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. The best cheesesteak in Charleston is at DB's Cheesesteaks. JB here. We say it every day, and we mean it. You voted for him. Let DB's Cheesesteaks in Avondale and West Ashley feed your family this football season. Use your favorite delivery app. Have them dropped off before your favorite game. And don't forget the boardwalk fries. They come with the Old Bay seasoning. dbscheesesteaks.com for the full menu. Hoagies, hot dogs, burgers, and more. DB's Cheesesteaks, the best cheesesteak in Charleston, the best cheesesteak for football.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Family Bingo Night is back. All 3 Dog and Duck locations. Every Monday from 6 to 8 is the perfect time to bring the kids, have dinner, and play bingo. They've upped the prizes with retail store gift cards, gas cards, in-house cash cards, and kid-friendly gift cards like Nintendo, pizza, App Store, and more. Thanks for supporting local businesses like the Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back 9 is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
All right, 102, welcome back. Final hour on this Thursday afternoon. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. We are at the JB and Goldwater Show.com. And, of course, on the all-new app, the JB and Goldwater app. You can download it in Apple or in your Google store. Darren, Jamie, no Corey. I don't know. We don't know what happened. But Corey is going to have to run to a meeting, so we're not going to get to finish our conversation with him, although Darren and I are going to probably finish it ourselves. So unfortunately, a little bit short with Corey today. We do have Scott Glaze coming up at 1:30, our Masters preview ahead. If you're looking forward to next week's Masters, you'll want to be a part of this conversation. So hang tight, Scott Glaze here in about 25, 30 minutes on the JB and Goldwater Show. 843-321-8893 is our phone number. It's also our text line, and you can shoot us a message if you'd like to do so. Thanks to David Cloninger for joining us today at the top of the program, right around 12:10, on a conversation involving the Gamecocks. The question I was asking Corey was, how did Michigan essentially lose to Michigan State after they 25-point victory over Minnesota on the road? And is this a Michigan program that really is just not as good of a football team as Indiana? I still think Michigan's the more talented football team. I don't know if that can really be disputed, but are they a better football team? Those, believe it or not, are two different things.
I was talking to a coach last week. Was it last week? It was last week. Who said Tom Allen, for his money, is the best coach in the Big Ten, and he's been saying it for a while. So now this was coming after the Penn State win for Indiana and prior to Indiana's next game. And he was saying the way he's able to utilize his talent, if he was at a major program, he could win a national championship. If he's anywhere other than Bloomington, he could win a national championship. Now, maybe in Bloomington, that's not the case. But if he were Tom Allen anywhere else, he could do it. Jim Harbaugh, and I've been saying this for anyone who would listen, and I've said it many times on this show, he is not the guy that can get Michigan over that hump where they're sitting right now. And that hump is Ohio State. Because the only thing Michigan judges itself on is Ohio State. It's the same general philosophy for South Carolina and Clemson. Right. Did we beat Ohio State? Okay, great. Then how'd the rest of the year go?
Right.
That's question one. Question two is how'd the rest of the year go?
Sure.
And right now, Jim Harbaugh can't beat Ohio State. He's 1-6 at home against Ohio State and Michigan State. He's got people really riled up. Michigan fans, Michigan alums, Michigan boosters. And they were at this point towards the end of last year also, and he survived. So to be at this point again right now, my guess is that the whispers start to trickle into that program, into that locker room. I do think Indiana wins the football game. I don't think anyone from the Big Ten other than Ohio State has a prayer at going to the playoff anymore. And it's going to be one of those years in the Big Ten where people are just beating each other up outside of Ohio State.
Wow. Well, is that where Steve Sarkisian ends up? We're gonna bring yesterday's conversation back. Real quick, I just got a text, and I'm working to actually confirm this. David Cloninger first mentioned this on our program as it pertains to Jamar Brown, dime linebacker for South Carolina. He did not want to go as far as to say what the injury was until it could be confirmed. But the message that I've received here looks like this is more than likely going to be confirmed, and that he will miss the rest of the year with a torn MCL injury for South Carolina football. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that. That would be a pretty big loss for South Carolina on the defensive side of the football. Remember, it's a team who has struggled, especially the last couple of weeks, to stop the run, and he's an important piece to that and kind of getting him going. So let me just actually confirm that is the injury, but according to David Cloninger, who first reported this on our program at the top of the show, it looks like Jamar Brown will officially be done for the 2020 season at South Carolina. So
tough blow. It
is. That's a difficult blow. Good news, bad news. He's played obviously in over 4 games. None of that matters because you get the year back at the same time. This was going to be a free year, so you'd like to be able to utilize the whole thing if you could. And he didn't start the year because of an injury, and he has only been able to play in a handful of games. But it looks like Jamar Brown will be done. So that is really unfortunate. Will Muschamp going to speak to everybody tonight in his call-in show at 7:00, and we'll probably hopefully get a little bit more on that. All right. Let's get back to Clemson then. So you've got. Let's kind of rehash this conversation we were having in the last hour. You got the Tigers and the Irish, and I've tried to shy away from these blanket statements, Darren, over the last couple of years. If they lose, or I'd say over the last few years, especially specifically since the college football playoff has been around. So, 6 years or so. I don't think it's beneficial sometimes to lay out these blanket statements and say, well, if this team loses, they're out of it. That does work sometimes. If a team's already got a loss, they take their second loss late in the year, things like that. Okay, I get that. But when it comes to like an undefeated team, like something you said earlier, I'm not picking on you here because
Yeah.
you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. But I think that there's more when you kind of scratch below the surface. If Notre Dame loses, are they out? Well, initial thought process would say, yeah, they probably are. But it's how do they lose the game? Is it because of a bad call? Is it because of a fumble or an interception or a missed kick or something fluky? Or it was just a really good football game. They just happened to lose. You battled to a 3-point loss or a 1-point loss against the number one team in the country. I don't know that you should really be beat up on that much over that or penalized.
It'll be important to see how they look.
Yeah.
This will be a big eye test game for Notre Dame. They haven't really been tested a whole lot except for that one stinker 3 weeks ago when they won 12-7.
Mm-hmm.
There are issues for Notre Dame. Their defense is good. We know that. The defense is legit. They have a bunch of tackles for loss. They are an aggressive group. It will not be easy for Clemson to straight up line up and run the ball against them. Where they do have a big advantage is defensively on the edge. Todd McShay was talking about this, and he had a Notre Dame game not too long ago because he was doing the game for NBC. And McShay pointed out that there just isn't speed on the outside for Notre Dame. They don't have elite athletes on the outside. So what that could then lead to is Brent Venables licking his chops and saying, you know what? I'm not worried about those guys on the outside. I am going to terrorize Ian Book, and I'm going to make his life a living hell. And if he wants to run the ball against us, fine, we're going to beat him up. And if he wants to scramble around and chuck it around, okay, that's not going to work either. If Brent Venables and Clemson dominate this game and make Notre Dame look bad, then it'll be very easy to say we were right again. This isn't the third or the fourth ranked team in the country, and they will fall. And they'll fall somewhat hard if Clemson dominates them. So it'll be important to see how the optics of it actually look. And if that happens, I don't think Notre Dame, even by going back and winning the ACC, it'll be tough for them to get in. It really will be tough for them to get in.
How significant is it for the Tigers right now that they have these stars out on defense? We all know they've recruited well. We all know that they're deep. I mean, they play a bunch of freshmen and things like that are really good. But Tyler Davis is really good, and he's one of the leaders of the defense up front there. Mike Jones coming into the year. I mean, we talked to I think Grace Rayner has said this. Reggie Merriweather has said this. Lawton Swan. I mean, all these folks are around the program a lot on our program. And they've all said, look, this Mike Jones character is a really good player, and they were all right. Well, he's not out there this week. Obviously, you don't have your leader Lawrence out there on the offensive side. You don't have your leader Skowski out there on the defensive side. I mean, you're talking about a bunch of leadership in addition to the fact that they're just all excellent football players not playing. How impactful is that? I mean, if you talk about this as it pertains to any other team, hey, look, 4 of your top 7 or 8 players are not playing. That's most people going, and you're on the road at number 4, you're going to lose. But I haven't necessarily heard that this week from anybody when it comes to Clemson.
And you know why you haven't heard it? Because they had this last week. And last week, the first half, they looked awful on defense. They really did. They looked confused. They were out of place. They were even at times running into each other. And then that got fixed in the second half. So this isn't going to be the first time that they're rolling out there against a good offense without 2 of their best players on the defensive side of the ball in Jones, 3, Skowski and Tyler Davis.
Yeah.
They figured out something in the second half that allowed them to, as Reggie Merriweather said on the show, they were able to bring more pressure in the second half. They were able to kind of settle down into their spots more in the second half. That's why the concern heading into this game isn't as high, because they've already done this. They've already done this for a full game. And there's very little concern on Uiagalelei's side or the staff as they view him because of how well he performed and the fact that the players now know. I mean, they can see him in practice all they want, but the players now know that at any given time, this kid's not going to panic. This kid has all the tools in the world to win the football game for Clemson if need be. Not just manage the game. He can go win the football game for Clemson if need be. So I don't think, on the surface, I think it hurts Trevor Lawrence more from a Heisman standpoint than it actually hurts Clemson. Obviously, Lawrence is the better player. Obviously, he's the one you'd prefer. but it's the luxury of being Clemson right now, that you've got this guy behind him who threw for 350 almost yards, threw for 2 touchdowns, ran one in from 30 or 40 yards out as well, and didn't really make a bad mistake in the 40 times he threw the ball. So I'm not worried. I'm not worried about that. I'm not so much worried about the defense. I'm curious to see if ETN can run the football, if the line can get a push.
Yeah.
But I agree with who was it yesterday? Corey. Not Corey. It was JC yesterday who said Clemson's going to win this game by 4 touchdowns. I think Clemson wins this game handily.
Yeah, I'm not willing to go that far yet. I don't – look, the thing with DJ Uiagalelei is we all know is we all understand his talent. We all understand, based on the limited time that we've seen him, he's an incredibly calm kid. Of course, I'm sure inside there are some nerves, but it's probably easier to calm yourself down when you look around and realize what is around you out there. Not just the skill guys, but up front. I mean, they're pretty loaded, and so you look around and go, okay, well, these guys are going to get me through it, even if I feel like I'm lost in la la land for a second or two. The key is Travis Etienne this weekend. I mean, that's flat out. I'll go as far as to say is if they stop Etienne and Uiagalelei needs to throw the football 40+ times to win it, they won't win. They'll lose. I don't think he's going to have a bad game, but I do think he's capable of making a mistake that costs him the football game as a freshman. And you don't have to make 2 or 3 of them in a game like this. You just need to make 1.
If it's a close game, then yes. If it's a close game and that's what's happening, you can't run the football. Notre Dame is finding ways offensively to score and stay in the game.
Well, that's the thing, right? Can they and that's going back to the point of this conversation is how significant are the injuries on that side of the football for Clemson? Because, they did start slow last week. They did have some communication issues out there. Clearly, that was because of their linebackers not being in the game. I mean, that's what Skalski does. And you're here, here's what you do. They're not there. And if you have a problem or two like that on defense, you have 1 or 2 problems on offense, they'll lose. Am I predicting that? No. But could it happen? Oh, yeah, it absolutely can.
So in order for Notre Dame to win the game, they have to be able to score. Because even if Notre Dame shuts down ETN, and to say shuts down, right? What are we saying? 100, 150 yards, whatever on the ground?
I'd say under 100.
Okay.
I mean, Travis, it's not like he's been 150 plus or anything every game this year.
Nope. So if that happens, you still have to score points if you're Notre Dame. Because even if Clemson is more one-dimensional than we would expect Clemson to be, they're still going to score. There are still enough playmakers out there to score. They will still get ETN the ball in the passing game like they did last week.
And they can score quick.
Yes, and they're going to score. They're going to put up points. They're going to put up their 30 to 40 type of points, even against this Notre Dame defense. So the question then becomes, can Notre Dame keep up with them?
Mm-hmm.
And my answer to that right now is no, because they don't have enough options offensively, even without the playmakers for Clemson on the inside. And you're talking right there on the line, then 2 of your 3 backers. You still got to find a way to hit them deep, and I don't know that Notre Dame can do that.
Yeah, well, and you're right. I mean, there are a lot of different ways to view this game when you bring in the new impacts of it with the injury losses for the Tigers on defense. Clearly, starting a freshman on the road. I seem to be maybe a little bit more bullish on that than others. I think, people over the last few years have come to expect no matter who plays for Clemson, they're just going to run in there and play great football. You have reason to believe that because most of the guys have done it.
Yep.
And I totally get that. But, I don't know how many true freshmen, regardless of how good you are or great you are, just running their second start on the road in a place like South Bend. I don't care how many fans are there either. It's go out there and play lights out. So the point of this conversation is Travis on the offensive side of the football. What's interesting about Etienne, so he leads the country in yards from scrimmage.
Yes.
But it's not because of running the football. He has run for over 600 yards, 606. That's only 71 yards more than Kevin Harris at South Carolina, okay? But he has 434 yards receiving on 29 catches, and those reps have been pretty consistent throughout the year. And he has as many 100-yard receiving games as he does running the football over 100 yards. He's got 200-yard receiving games and two games where he ran the football for over 100. Not that that's some special. It is a special number, but not that that's. It's not like they have some special number that he has to hit for them to win or something like that. So they can utilize him in a lot of different ways this weekend, and they will. They're going to. They have to. When you've got a freshman quarterback, you have to utilize your best weapons in any way, shape, or form that you can, especially when you're on the road. It doesn't matter which way you use them, but you have to use them a bunch. So he's going to have to touch the football, Travis is 25, 30-plus times. But if he can't run it well, and what is well in a game like this? I would say probably what you saw last week in the BC game. 4+ yards, grind it out, 20 carries for 80, 90 yards, something like. If he can't get that going, then you're putting more on your QB.
Yes.
That's more opportunities for 1 or 2 mistakes to cost you the football game, something weird. I mean, even Travis fumbled that ball at the goal line last week, which is totally uncharacteristic. And to think that couldn't happen to a true freshman is just nonsense. It absolutely can. Now, in saying all that, who's the better team?
By a mile.
By a mile. It's Clemson. Who is the better quarterback? Well, I can tell you the more talented quarterback is the guy at Clemson. Who's the quarterback that's more ready for this time? It's Ian Book. The question with Book is, will he play like that? Because he hasn't necessarily done that.
Will Clemson give him the ability to play like that?
Right.
Will those options be open? The other thing that's imperative to keep in mind here, Trevor Lawrence will be there. Trevor Lawrence will be with the team. He will not play in the game because he hasn't had time to go through the cardiac testing that he has to go through once you recover from COVID-19, but he'll be there. So in the event things aren't going smoothly, let's say early on for Clemson, and Notre Dame is bringing some pressures that maybe DJ isn't familiar with and isn't expecting, and maybe he makes an early mistake or seems confused, Trevor Lawrence is there. Trevor Lawrence will take him through it and walk him through the whole thing. So it's not like Tony Elliott's got to worry about that. And it's not like Dabo Swinney's got to worry about that. Because I assure you, they are more than comfortable saying, all right, Trevor, you're on this trip for one reason. You're going to stick with him. Every second he's not on the field and he's on the sidelines, you're next to him. And you are helping him every single step of the way.
Yeah.
And they don't have to worry about it. That's a huge, not just mental edge. It is a massive mental edge. But it is also a big physical and overall edge that Clemson has, because it takes away a lot of the immaturity. It takes away a lot of the ability for Notre Dame to confuse this kid, because he's got enough talent. We know that. And if you've got someone who can go over the plays with you, go over what you're seeing every time you're off the field, I mean, it's not like another coach. It is another coach right there on the sidelines.
Yeah. And need to give credit to Notre Dame and their defense this year. But statistically, it's been better than Clemson's. It has been sensational, as a matter of fact. They've only given up 23 points combined in their last 3 ball games. The names of those teams: Louisville, Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech. No, Louisville's offense is respectable. Georgia Tech at times has been. Pittsburgh at times has been. Nothing like they're going to see this weekend out of the Tigers. They haven't seen Miami yet this year. They did give up 26 to Florida State. That's, I think, when they started the Scott kid for the first time. The Noles did, and so it was a little bit different. But you got to give credit to one of the best defenses in the country. Obviously, there's going to be 2 of the best defenses in the country, 2 of the top 5 in the nation this weekend up there in South Bend. We'll pick the game tomorrow. Is it a low-scoring game, or do you think I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Is it a low-scoring game, or is it a little bit of a higher-scoring game?
It'll be a higher-scoring game because I think Clemson puts up points.
Okay.
You're right. Notre Dame is one of the best rushing defenses in the country. They're among the leaders nationally in tackles for loss. So it's not going to be simple to just go out there and run. But they're going to find ways to get ETN the ball. They're going to find ways to get their playmakers on the outside the ball. And I think it'll be a long day for Notre Dame. But I do know this. It's going to be a heck of a night of football. So you can go watch Carolina A&M. You can go watch Clemson Notre Dame over at Dog and Duck. They still have the Boy King on tap, by the way. That's the double IPA from Coast. And Kids Bingo Night is back as well.
and they'll be playing at the same time. Multiple TVs. By the way, Coastal Carolina will also be on the TV on Saturday night. So
That's right.
3 teams from the state of South Carolina over there at the Dog and Duck. If you so wish to enjoy yourselves, which I would recommend you should, Saturday evening here in the Low Country. Patriots Point presents our national anthem. We appreciate that always around here. HolyCityDriveIn.com. If you're not going to hit the bar on Saturday night, maybe you should hit the banks of the Cooper River. The Holy City Drive-In movie series is going to turn into a tailgate for this ball game on Saturday over at Patriots Point. Head to HolyCityDriveIn.com for tickets and more information on that. But you'll be able to roll right in and watch Clemson and Notre Dame on the big screen.
And there's a concert beforehand from a local band. Happens to be the son of the new husband of one of my good friends. So he's been they just named the band. Yeah, you can follow me along. A good friend of mine has been remarried. It's his son.
Summer 97 is
Yeah,
the name of the band.
his son is the lead singer of that group. And Jerry Jacobs is his name. And you can go out there. I think it's the second time they've been playing out there. So head out there early, get your spot, chill with some tunes. It'll get you ready for the game.
I will recommend go to HolyCityDriveIn.com and reserve your spot. If you right on the homepage, there's a blue button that says reserve now. If you're going to go, reserve the spot.
That's a good call.
Go ahead and reserve it so you can make sure you can get in there and watch it. All right, we do have, if you're heading to Columbia this weekend to watch the Gamecocks and the Aggies, listen very closely or you might want to carry a $100 bill in your pocket. The capital city will now require face coverings to be worn in public places, and that does include sidewalks and waiting areas through early next year. Violators are subject to fines of $100. That is quadruple what the punishment has been, is only $25. All right? This rule takes effect immediately. So if you're going to the game and you're walking to Williams-Brice Stadium, you better have your mask on. Now, I don't see anything that says
that's got to include the stadium then as well, right?
Well, there's already a mask ordinance in the stadium. If you're in your seat, you can take it off. But if you're roaming around, you have to have it on.
And I wonder if that has to change.
No, it does not change in Williams-Brice. If you're in your seat, you can take your mask off.
Okay.
But if you are tailgating outside of the ballpark, you need to be careful. If you're in an area that there is no 6-foot buffer, then they're going to require you to have this on. But if you're not, you're okay. And, of course, right now a lot of the tailgate areas, the ones that are run by South Carolina, those rules are those rules. If you've been there, you know what the rules are. Don't worry about it. If you're in a private lot, you have to pay attention to some of these city rules that, if you're going to be out roaming around or whatever it is. So have your mask on. This is very important. If they pop you with a $100 fine,
that stinks.
Yeah,
then you got to fork over $100.
And here's the thing: if you're planning on taking your family up there, and you got 3 or 4 of you, and none of you're just walking to the game without masks on, you can be popped for $400 in fines. So be careful. So walking to Williams-Brice this weekend, I would say in particular here, I don't think they're really going to mess with you if you're in your own little tailgate spot. But if you're walking to the game, put your mask on. I know I've already been there for 2 of the games this year. We'll be up there again this weekend. We walk with our mask on to be respectful of others, but a lot of people are not doing that. They haven't been required to, so that's okay. Not now. So you're going to need to pay attention to that. Also, we already spoke with David Cloninger today about this. He kind of hinted that it could be maybe sooner than later. It looks like the SEC tomorrow will release the 2020-2021 conference basketball schedule. So it starts this month, folks. College basketball does, and we don't know who's playing who and where they're playing.
If you follow the college basketball guys on Twitter, some of the best content right now is coming from their anonymous coaching texts about coaches trying to schedule and their analogies for what it's like trying to schedule. Whole lot of edited words in there and a whole lot of really creative analogies, all of which are basically saying it is impossible to schedule games right now. It is complete debacle. And even though the season does start this month, most teams are still up in the air about at least something about this year.
Oh, it's been strange. Well, I mean, there's probably going to be fans that get, let's say Carolina and Clemson don't play in men's basketball, and I don't know if that's going to be true or not. We know they're not playing in women's basketball. I mean, there's already fans. There are plenty of fans out there that are still ticked off that they're not playing in football, and I guess they just happened to miss what was going on in all this as everybody was trying to get things scheduled. I've had to repeat myself with multiple people, and I'm just not doing it on Twitter anymore. I've just flat out quit. When the conferences decide to control as much as they can, there's only so much you can do. Period. The end. And if you want to still complain, and as this is going to pertain to basketball as well, but as it pertains to football, the one final explanation on this. Well, there's no Greg Sankey. He screwed it up. He doesn't care about our rivalry. Well, that's not true. That's not true at all. One of the reasons that the SEC that this is working in the league is because they have maximum flexibility.
Yep.
That's why.
Yes.
I mean, and if they didn't have that, then they would be losing games. I don't know of one team that's lost a game that they're not going to be able to recoup.
Not in the SEC.
Not in the SEC. That's what I'm talking about.
Wisconsin would like to have a word.
No,
but right.
Well,
not in the, yes.
But that's my point. So they were like, look, we have to take every buffer. We can put every buffer in place we can here to make sure we play as many games as we can, and we can't control all of that if we're playing a team from another league who might have a different set of rules and a different schedule than we've got.
Right. So I referenced the Big Ten. They got issues.
It could happen in basketball is all I'm saying.
Yeah, it could. And the Pac-12's got issues right now. It's possible Cal can't play Saturday.
Right.
The number of positives I think is pretty low, but the contact tracing is very high for the guys with the Bears team right now. And they're in the same general position as the Big Ten. If you lose a game, it's going to be almost impossible to make it up.
Absolutely. It is impossible in the Big Ten.
And that's why the SEC did what they did. That's why the ACC and the SEC scheduled the way they scheduled.
Yeah. Crazy. All right, couple quick notes. We got to go to Scott. Our Masters preview is coming up next. The Louisville, Virginia game postponed this weekend. Tulsa and Navy has been postponed. You just mentioned Cal. By the way, pay attention on Saturday when Southern Cal and Arizona State kick off at noon on Fox. Why? Because it's 9 a.m. where they're kicking off in Los Angeles. They are playing at 9 a.m. in L.A. Wow, that's going to be early.
And it'll be weird all the way around.
It'll be great for us East Coasters, but the West Coast guys, that stinks.
But leading into that's your big noon kickoff.
Right, and they're not going to be there either.
Got a lot of COVID stuff today.
It's trouble when the entire squad of the big noon kickoff for Fox is quarantined due to COVID. But I think Carissa Thompson's going to handle it this weekend, so it'll be a little bit of a different look. But if you've been watching that, Urban Meyer and Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, and Brady Quinn, and who am I missing here? Somebody. The host.
Stone. Is it Rob Stone?
Rob Stone.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rob. No, all of them are in quarantine due to COVID, so they will not be on the big noon kickoff this weekend. And there you go. Time for a timeout, our final timeout of the afternoon. When we return, it is time almost 1 week from today. The Masters. Unbelievable. In the fall in Augusta. The preview up next with our friend Scott Glaze. The best cheesesteak.
Is your old car really scary? Does it look dreadful or smell awful? Don't be frightened. There's never been a better time to trade in your spooky old car. Stokes Volkswagen just received a new shipment of the VW Atlas and VW Crossport. But here's what makes that even sweeter. Every new Atlas and Crossport is $3,000 off MSRP. Plus, every 2020 Volkswagen is available with 0% financing. That's right. You get both the huge discount and 0% financing. So if you want to play trick or treat at other dealerships, that's okay. Come see us at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or visit stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Plus tax tag includes $399.50 closing fee. Offer subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
The best cheesesteak in Charleston is at DB's Cheesesteaks. JB here. We say it every day, and we mean it. You voted for them. Let DB's Cheesesteaks in Avondale and West Ashley feed your family this football season. Use your favorite delivery app. Have them dropped off before your favorite game. And don't forget the boardwalk fries. They come with the Old Bay seasoning. DB'scheesesteaks.com for the full menu. Hoagies, hot dogs, burgers, and more. DB's Cheesesteaks, the best cheesesteak in Charleston, the best cheesesteak for football.
Family Bingo Night is back. All 3 Dog and Duck locations. Every Monday from 6 to 8 is the perfect time to bring the kids, have dinner, and play bingo. They've upped the prizes with retail store gift cards, gas cards, in-house cash cards, and kid-friendly gift cards like Nintendo, pizza, App Store, and more. Thanks for supporting local businesses like the Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
This is former Gamecock quarterback Perry Orth, and you're listening to my friends JB and Goldwater.
.134, final segment here on a bit of a dreary Thursday afternoon in the low country of South Carolina. Welcome back. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. We hit the road for Hollywood, South Carolina, the original Hollywood. That
Closer than the other Hollywood.
That's right. That's right. And a lot less dramatic. They're just nicer people in this Hollywood. And that's probably because that's the home of the Stono Ferry Golf Course and also the home of the Stono Ferry Golf Pro, one of the kindest humans in Hollywood. Scott Glaze here on a Thursday afternoon. All right, Scotty. I'm sure you're starting to shake in your boots a little bit. We're 1 week from the Masters in the fall. I saw a picture this morning of some of the trees and the colors that have already changed over there in Augusta. It's going to be a beautiful, beautiful setting.
Oh, man, I can't wait. It's just the Masters gives you chills. I got my quarter zip on here, so you can't see the chills that I have. But you know that things have gotten real. I've got my Masters mug out. We were drinking coffee every morning now from the Masters mug. That's always a tradition that me and my grandfather have.
All right.
Drinking out of a Masters mug leading up to the Masters. So it's gotten real, and really it's going to be hard. It's going to be easy to overlook Houston this week with an unprecedented fall Masters next week.
Yeah, no question. Let's remind people that the Vivint Houston Open is being played. Scotty Scheffler right now is actually leading through 15 here in round 1. He is at 4 under. There's a bunch of guys in this tournament that, of course.
Don't worry, Scotty's going to make a double now that we mentioned him.
Yeah.
He's going to fall back.
That happens every week, doesn't it?
Yeah, Scotty's checked out of our program. That's for sure. But there are a bunch of names that are playing this week. What is the purpose? If you're a Tony Finau or a Jordan Spieth who didn't have a good day, 3 over today, what's the purpose of playing? And Brooks Koepka, 2 over today. I guess they're all probably a little bit different, reasons for playing in this tournament. But overall, why would you play this weekend when the Masters is up next?
Different strokes for different folks. There are some guys that really are going to get. They kind of need to jog before they sprint, type deal. Need to get loosened up. Yeah. There are some guys that might still be looking for something in their game, and they need those tournament reps. I've said it before, and say it again about the Masters and any golf for that matter. You can go out and play golf on the weekend with your buddies. If you compete in a tournament where every stroke counts, that's a totally different animal. That competition is a different animal, and for guys that have taken some time off, especially since the wrap up of the season, PGA Championship, U.S. Open, they kind of need to get their legs under them again. So I think that's why you see some of these guys. Some guys prefer it. Some don't. In terms of Brooks Koepka, he's a big name in the field this week due to sponsor obligations is why he's playing. He also had a hand in redesigning this golf course a couple years ago with Tom Doak. He was the PGA Tour consultant, I believe is what they are calling it. So he's got obligations to be here. Dustin Johnson, world golf ranking #1 player in the field this week, and the first time we've seen him since he contracted COVID. So I think this is going to be really good for DJ this week to play and get those competitive reps back underneath him before we head to Augusta next week. It's this tournament historically from 2007 to 2018 was the week before the Masters, the Houston Open. And just by happenstance, with the coronavirus and the rescheduling of the tour season, it is once again back the week before the Masters. So we always see a mixed bag as to guys who may perform well this week that then perform well next week. The last time someone won the week before the Masters and went on to win the Masters was 2006 when Phil Mickelson did it. I think that was the Bell South Classic in Atlanta. So it's not really – I would not predict the person to win the golf tournament this week to win next week unless it was one of your bigger names. But we are going to see some guys really start sharpening their iron before we head into the hallowed grounds of Augusta National.
All right, here is some of the TV schedule. If you're well, first of all, let's remember that we do have football this fall as well, and so CBS really sets up neat on Saturday because the Masters coverage is going to end pretty much right at 6:00, right before it. And then they'll roll into the pregame show, and then Alabama and LSU are going to kick off at 6:00 on CBS. But you've got ESPN Thursday from 1 to 5:30, Friday 1 to 5:30, Saturday 1 to 5, Sunday 10 to 3 p.m. on CBS. Well, so Scotty, that's a little different than what we're used to here. We're used to seeing some different times in the spring, but obviously it gets dark now at about 5:00, or you're gonna have to go. What's that movie where they had to bring all the headlights out with
Bagger Vance?
Yeah, Bagger Vance. You're gonna have a Bagger Vance moment out there this weekend. So how is this? Is this a major adjustment for the players?
No, not a major adjustment for the players at all. If you're out there playing on the PGA Tour, you're used to whatever may be thrown your way. Early morning tee times, late afternoon tee times, and you just schedule your day accordingly, especially for a lot of these guys, the majority of these guys that have molded the game of golf into a very athletic sport. If they have a late tee time, they might try to get a workout in the morning. If they have an early tee time, might try to get a workout in the afternoon or hit some balls or work on their game. It won't be a huge adjustment for the players. What's going to be really interesting to see is the different look of Augusta National due to the time of year, the way the sun is a lot lower in the sky right now. We're getting different shadows that you get in the fall and winter months. So that's going to be really interesting just from a visual standpoint if you're a player that's played there for years and years or just a casual fan. But no, anything goes on a major week. You know that on Thursday you're going to have a morning tee time, and then Friday, in this case, it'll be maybe late morning to early afternoon tee time on one of those days. One of the days you'll be teeing off on number 1. One of the days you'll be teeing off on number 10 when they announced they'd be doing the split tees there. And then you just hope that you're in position to have as late a tee time as possible on Saturday and Sunday. That's what you play for as a golfer. You want to be going off late on the weekend. That means you're in the lead or close to it. So not too big of an adjustment for these guys. It is an adjustment for the Augusta National Golf Club and the way that they run their event because they're used to a springtime event with much longer days of sunlight.
Well, the weather, for those that are interested in the weather, I know a lot of golf aficionados out there love to look at it before they're going to go tee off. There is some chances of rain Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but we're a week out, so we'll really have to see what happens there. But the temperatures are going to be very similar to April. High of 80, low 65 on Thursday, 79, 61 Friday, 78, 61 Saturday, and 77, 58 and beautiful.
Perfect.
On Sunday. Yeah, absolutely beautiful. So is there anything different generally when you talk about the Masters, if there is some major renovation, of course, we know about that, but is there anything that's going to be a little bit different with the course this year because it's being played in the fall? Anything that they've thought maybe we should adjust it because of weather conditions or because of time of year, things like that?
No, I think if anything, it'll play a little bit softer. This time of year, you're getting less sunlight throughout the day. And there are more areas of shade because the sun is lower in the sky, things of that nature. So it might play softer just because it won't have the sunlight or the temperatures to be able to really dry out. Now, however, Augusta National is one of the few courses in the world that probably has an unlimited maintenance budget.
Yep. So
they can do whatever they want, spend or they're going to spend whatever they want to make sure that golf course is in the exact shape that they want it. So there's going to be a lot of technology involved with sub-air systems to where if it does get a little too soft out there, They can suck some water out of the ground there and firm it up. Based on the threat of distance with Bryson DeChambeau, they might want it to play a little soft so that the ball is not going to be bounding and rolling on these holes where he could overpower it. So there is a lot of preparation, a lot of planning from the Augusta National Golf Club, their members and their staff, and they're going to have that golf course exactly how they want to play it. I would think, as I just said, that it will play a little soft.
What was the last time someone was allowed to play Augusta National? Have they been keeping guys off this course, even their members, for an extended period of time here?
No, they actually they opened it up for the members, I believe, in the first part of October, and they shut it down probably a couple weeks out from the event. It's not a place that's going to be churning a lot of rounds, so it doesn't really affect the golf course too terribly much, because it is a walking only, caddy only golf course. So you can't really go out there and tear it up if you're one of the members. Plus, Augusta National does not allow anyone to play from the tournament tees during member play, or if members have any guests out there. Everyone has to play from the member tees. So you're playing a little bit different of the golf course, just in terms of length and where you're hitting approach shots and so on and so forth.
Jack Nicklaus, by the way, has recently said that he thinks that Bryson DeChambeau could drive the 455-yard first green. That's what Jack said. He said, I think he could do it. And correct me if I'm wrong, isn't number one a little bit uphill, Scott?
Yeah, one's a little bit uphill.
Wow.
I don't know what Jack's thinking there, but 455 is going to be. That is a.
Oh, poor Jack. All right, let's talk about the players though. And we'll, you know what? We'll for everybody's entertainment out there, we'll start with Tiger. Tiger's a defending champion at the Masters. Isn't that cool to say, man? As much as this year sucks, Tiger Woods is going to tee up next Thursday as the defending champion at the Masters. Talk about Tiger. Talk about his game leading into this tournament and how that pertains to playing this tournament here as we just said, the defending champion.
You got a week left to say it, man. That's it, because I don't know if we're saying it again, but go ahead.
No, he wins. He's good back-to-back. He wins it. I'm picking it now. He wins.
So as we kind of dive into players, I think the most important stat at Augusta National is strokes gained approach. I think whoever is hitting their irons and controlling their irons the best, putting them in the right sections on the greens, is critical. That is more important than distance. And then I think distance comes in third in that category. You have your approach game, and then your short game and putting, and then distance at Augusta National. So on that same thread, Tiger last year in 2019 was first in strokes gained approach.
Wow.
In the last 5 years of Masters champions, they have finished either first, second, or third in these events, in the Masters in strokes gained approach. So Tiger is defending a major for the first time since 2009. That's hard to believe.
Unbelievable.
This is the fourth time he's ever defended a major, Tiger has successfully defended a major championship 4 times. He's done it twice at the Masters before, done it once at the Masters before. But that stat is tied with Walter Hagen for most all time. So that's pretty impressive to back it up 2 years in a row, 4 times in his career. Have no clue what we're going to see out of Tiger. Really hope we see historic Tiger and good golf. I'm glad to hear that the weather forecast is good. I think that bodes well for him and his health and his back. I don't know. I'm trying to maintain faith, but it certainly is going to be special for the viewers and for Tiger to be there as defending champion once again.
How many fans are going to be there this year? I know they're letting some in, right? Or are they not?
I don't think they're letting any in.
Oh, that's right. No, you're right. You're right. They're not letting anybody on the course.
Yeah, the PGA has said they'll start letting, but Augusta National will.
Nobody. All right. Well, how much does that affect Tiger?
I think that probably helped propel him last year to win the Masters.
I agree.
To have those roars, to get that adrenaline really pumping through his body. I mean, I can't imagine what that place had to sound like last year, when he hit that shot on 16 to about a foot or two to where that triggered for me this is happening. This is really happening. He is going to win this golf tournament. I just can't imagine the buzz around that place and the fact that he was the sole player in the field to thrive off of it. That had to be so intimidating for everyone else to know that Tiger's there, Tiger's coming, and he was back, so to speak. So that certainly could help or could hurt to not have fans there. Let's hope that he's in position to where we get to see if it's going to help or hurt. But I really think it's going to be with the health concerns and maybe just some nagging thoughts in the back of your head of if you still have it.
Who else? I mean, obviously there's such an elite group, an expanding elite group of golfers right now. Give me the 3 or 4 names you're really looking at to win this thing if Tiger's not in that group, and then give me another list of 3 or 4 that you go, hey, look, you know what? This thing, based on the way he's been playing or whatever, maybe this thing could actually maybe fall into his lap a little bit this weekend. Give us that list.
I think right now I'm leaning towards Justin Thomas being my pick. He has led the tour in strokes gained approach over the last 2 years. And as I said earlier, that is very key at Augusta National. He also last year led the field in strokes gained tee to green. So he really was in command of his golf ball around Augusta National. He, however, has to putt better in order to win the Masters. He's a very streaky putter. If Justin Thomas has a good putting week, I think he can walk away as Masters champion. He also has improved his finish every year that he's played in the event. So the last 4 years, he's had a better finish than he has any prior year. So he's learning the golf course, learning the nuances, and this could be the time where Justin Thomas breaks through. I also think Dustin Johnson is somebody to keep an eye on. Dustin has dominated in that strokes gained approach stat since the PGA Championship. He's averaging 1.5 strokes gained, which is more than double the majority of players on the PGA Tour. So we know he's a great ball striker. Dustin, also a streaky putter, but he has had 4 straight top 10s at Augusta National. So he could also be looking to break through there. I think Jon Rahm, I would say Jon Rahm's a little bit under the radar. The guy is so good, but I just don't know why he's not getting the coverage and the talk week to week. I think there's just some maybe more likable guys. Brooks Koepka, I think, is going to fly in a little under the radar just because we have not seen him this much. He has not played that well. His ball striking, speaking of ball striking, has been down even since the start of the 2019-2020 season. And so I think he's a little bit under the radar. Bryson DeChambeau, of course, is who everyone has their eyes on him and what he's going to do to Augusta National. Last week, I mentioned how if you use Google Earth and Bryson's average drives, he might hit over a 9-iron only 3 times around, which is absurd. However, Augusta National has only tracked strokes gained stats for the last 5 years. They did not allow that type of data to go on at the event. So we don't have lengthy stats there, but there are 58 players with 8 or more rounds at Augusta National. Of those 58 players, DeChambeau ranks last in putting stats. And that's so key at Augusta National. I think putting is going to be a lot more important than driving the golf ball. And you also need to be in the right quadrants and areas of the green. But he is going to be the number one story. Some people, Rory McIlroy is there, of course. I think some people under the radar. I think Ricky Fowler is going to be under the radar, and I want to see Ricky do well. He is 25 under the last 3 years at the Masters, and that's 6 shots better than any other player in that span.
Wow.
You remember in 2018, Ricky was right there. He almost chased down Patrick Reed, but couldn't do it. But Ricky very often has been in the mix at Augusta and just can't really get it going on that Sunday or just can't quite catch the breaks, but has been there. Now, however, he's not had a top 10 finish since we came back to golf in May. So Ricky is under the radar. I also think Tony Finau is under the radar. He has 7 top 10 finishes in major championships since 2017. That's only one behind Brooks Koepka that leads that stat. So Tony Finau always seems to show up at the majors. The guy has the distance, and we don't talk about that. We talk about that with DeChambeau. I think Finau has the distance to where if it proves that can dominate Augusta National, he has it. But more importantly, Tony Finau makes birdies in bunches. The guy can putt, he can fill it up, and that is going to be important at Augusta National to take advantage and make those birdies where you can, so that you can hold on those difficult holes.
And Finau won't be participating in the I guess there is no par 3, so he won't be able to break his ankle again before the tournament.
Right, exactly. and then on a broken ankle, he went out and had a top 10 finish,
he played great.
Had a chance to compete there. So, and the guy, he's got good finishes at Augusta, and that bodes well when you have that feel good energy around a place, and it's at a place that you can play well and you've had success. That certainly. It's easy to see an uptick in your game when you get to one of those places.
Players will start to get there, I'm assuming, Sunday night, Monday. Some of those, of course, playing this weekend, Sunday night, Monday. We'll get tee times when? Monday? Tuesday?
I think tee times come out Tuesday, I believe.
Okay.
That sounds right to me, Tuesday.
Wow, fascinating. I will say this, too, on a little bit of an off note. I do feel, and I know somebody that does this, I do feel for the community of Augusta, who generally they rent their houses out during Augusta every year. They make thousands of dollars. A lot of times, I know somebody literally pays like 6 months' worth of a mortgage by doing that.
Yep.
And they're not going to be able to do it this year. But so, you got 1 minute left here, and then we got to let you run. You got a minute, so hopefully you can get it done in that. This experience, when we look back on this, what will we say when we look back on Augusta being played in the fall? What will we remember about this tournament mostly?
I think how are we going to remember 2020? I think it's going to be about the same way. I think it's going to be strange. There's going to be not an asterisk, but 2020, the year that Justin Thomas won, was the year that it was played in the fall. It's unfortunately it's going to be added to whoever wins. It's going to be added at the end of that victory. Won the 2020 Masters, competed in November instead of April. I think it's still going to be great. Augusta National is the best at what they do. They put on the best golf tournament in the world.
Yep.
And this will be no exception. And it will be, like Jim Nantz says, a tradition unlike any other, and an experience unlike any other, especially involving College game day and all of that. So I just hope that we have a great, great golf tournament so that we have great memories of it, and what a championship that it was, and a worthy champion emerges.
Yeah, we got to get a spars on that tomorrow. Who will the celebrity picker be next weekend on College game day from Augusta National?
They have not announced.
Is it Jack Nicklaus? Who's it going to be? I don't know. It won't be Tiger. He's got to play.
That's a good prop bet right there.
That's a great prop.
It's a very good prop bet.
Absolutely. Will it be Darius Rucker?
Hold
my hand.
It could be Tiger if he's not on the weekend.
Oh, could be. Yeah. Let's just hope that's not. No. Tiger's going to win it. Go Tiger.
Okay.
Tiger wins. Scott, can't wait to talk to you next Thursday to break down what we're seeing on the course. We're really looking forward to that, man. Thank you so much. Great weekend to go play out at Stono Ferry as well. It's going to be beautiful. StonoFerryGolf.com to book those tee times.
Absolutely. Come see us. Can't wait for next week. I'll be in my green next week. So.
Yeah.
There you go.
Us too. We're buying green jacket. We're going to paint green jackets around here.
There you go.
Sure.
There you go. We'll see you guys.
See you, Scotty. Thanks, man. Great stuff there from Scott Glaze. The Masters 1 week from today. But what is today? Here's today. Maybe at some point in time. There it is. It's National Cash Back Day. So whenever you make a purchase, get some money out.
Heck yeah.
Pay that fine, that COVID fine in Columbia with it.
I'll take cash back for anything.
If you've got red hair, it's National Love Your Red Hair Day.
Hey, Flint.
Oh, yeah, my favorite red-haired person, Michael Flint. And it is also National Men Make Dinner Day. So I'll be making dinner tonight at the house. I do that often anyways, but I'll do it again.
I'll make it or buy it. That counts.
Well, you can make it really easy. You know why? Because it's National Donut Day. Serve donuts for dinner at the Goldwater household.
I can assure you our daughter will not complain.
Nah. Krispy Kreme or Dunkin'?
Oh, Krispy Kreme.
I know. Well, is there anything better than the hot and ready sign?
No.
I used to drive by it every morning when I hosted a 6 a.m. show, and it was impossible to not stop. I did a couple times, but I mostly I didn't.
Good coffee at Krispy Kreme, too.
Yeah, I've spilled that on myself before.
That sucks.
Make donuts for dinner by stopping at Krispy Kreme today.
Put a burger in between 2 donut patties.
I've seen that. I don't want to do it.
No, neither do I.
Nah. Thanks to Scott, Corey, and David. What a great day. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to Darren. Thanks to the sky.
Feeling the love today, aren't you?
We love all of you. It's a big day tomorrow. We have a ton of giveaways to do tomorrow.
Yep.
Ton of giveaways. We're going to announce a really neat event coming up later in November, our bourbon event. You're going to love that. We got our picks tomorrow. We got Esparza. We got Flint. We got Shelton. We got a bunch. Friday's going to be a lot of fun heading into a great, great weekend of football. So, for Darren Goldwater, I'm Jamie Bradford. Have a terrific Thursday afternoon, and we'll see you tomorrow on the JB and Goldwater